Good evening, everyone. This is the series of Toronto branch offerings on Anthroposophical meditations. And when we had our meeting to decide what meditations we were going to do, no one had put their hand up for the Rose Cross, so I did, and that's my qualification. Well, I've been working with the Rose Cross for I've been making mistakes and not being able to do the Rose Cross for about 45 years. And in that time, I've had a few insights come through. I think it was the spiritual world having pity on me. That here's a little something, try this. I know you're not doing so well. So, but as I was gathering together the information for this presentation, I realized, looking for images of the Rose Cross, that there was an incident in my life that was kind of interesting. I found out when I was 12 years old that I hadn't been christened. And I asked my mother if I'd been christened. I think something came up at church with a girlfriend or something. And she said, no. I said, is my brother christened? They said, yes. You know, he was the firstborn. We just kind of didn't do you. And so I asked to be christened at 12. And my aunt was chosen as godmother. And what did she give me for my christening present? A Rose Cross pendant. And that just struck me now that I've been wearing the Rose Cross. We'll see this style of Rose Cross come up in the presentation, a single rose in the middle of a cross. And that I've been wearing that from age 12. So from crazy karmic circumstances, I guess I was okay in putting my hand up for this one. It's a topic that I don't want to go into any more biography, because I think this is the kind of topic where you just want to be as transparent as possible to the work. So without further ado, let's look at what Rudolf Steiner said about the Rose Cross meditation. Now I'm going to have to go to my share screen. Grant has been training me in. And I click this and do play. Now, did that work, Grant? Good, okay. Now, the trouble is, I wasn't at the beginning, okay. The Rose Cross meditations. What I wanted to cover tonight is the descriptions and directions that Rudolf Steiner left for us on its meanings, its potency, and how to practice it. And then I'm counting on my fellows to share insights that they've had in either short or long time practicing the Rose Cross. We're going to do the meditation together and have groups to share what we came up with in that. So, how do I do this, Grant? There we go, that way. The Rose Cross meditation. How do I get rid of these side ones, Grant? I can't read my own text here. Can I minimize?
Sorry, I was muted too.
Yes, well, I need you to help me.
Yeah, so we can all see your screen perfectly.
And I can't read from it because I'm slightly blocked.
Right, so you can grab a hold of anything that's blocking and push it off to the side. You'll see only half of it then.
Okay. What it's doing there, okay. I got it, I think. There. All right, now you're getting a sneak preview. Going back. That doesn't want me to go back. There we go. Okay, still a problem. All that is to be disclosed here in the next few days, and I can't read the text, Grant. There's no way for you to remove my hide self view. Uh-oh. There. Okay. Oh, it just bounces back. Can I do this bring to front? Oh, we had a practice session so we wouldn't have these difficulties. I'm going to exit full screen and bring up an alternative for myself. I don't know how this is going to work now. Okay, you're going to have to see the sidebar, people. It's the only way I can do this. All that is to be discussed here in the next few days has been known for centuries within certain restricted circles of our cultural and spiritual life. Only one feature distinguishes today's presentation from all those that have gone before. It can be addressed to a larger circle. Those smaller circles in which for centuries the same message was proclaimed within our European spiritual life. These had recognized the same symbol that confronts you here in this lecture hall today. In other words, Steiner had rose cross symbols around the hall as he was giving his lecture. The rose cross. For this reason, it is fitting that today, when this message goes forth to a larger public, the rose cross should again be its symbol. 24th of June, 1909. This reborn human ego was perpetuated as a holy secret, was preserved under the symbol of the rose cross, and is now proclaimed as the secret of the Holy Grail, as the rose cross. Now what do I do? There. I'm having, Grant, do you have your copy? Maybe we need you to help out. Oh, here we go. To speak of Christ, technical difficulties. To speak of Christ as the leader of successive worlds and of the higher hierarchies is the teaching of the science that has unfolded since the 12th and 13th centuries under the sign of the Rose Cross. This is the pendant that Rudolf Steiner wore. I found something from 1629 showing a rose cross. It has various forms, not just the one that Steiner used. This is from Robert Flood, also known as Robertus de Fluctibus, born January 1574. He was a prominent English Paracelsian physician with both scientific and occult interests. He is remembered as an astrologer, mathematician, cosmologist, Kabbalist, and Rosicrucian apologist. And I love this image because the cross is sprouting life, and the rose is gathering bees. These will have significance as we go along. Steiner's cross. He says in his presentation, let's take the rose cross in its simplest form. Steiner, and now I'm quoting something from a blog from the Rosicrucian Society. I looked in various places. I wanted to see what insight we can gather here. Steiner used the rose cross symbol of the pen sophers for his Anthroposophy. It is a distinct rose cross with a circle of 7 roses upon it. It was used by Heindel, Surya, Krumheller, Sebottendorf, Hartmann, and Tranker, showing its pan-German Rosicrucian use. We know it's distinctly pan-Sophic because it first appears in the Rosicrucian document Pandora of the Sixth Age, dated 1617. Now, I found that document and the illustration in it is here. And you'll see in that is a rose cross with the roses around the cross in a circle. And there's a very interesting radiance around the whole cross that will come up again in Steiner's description. Okay, there. This is the Theosophical Rose Cross from Manly P. Hall, whose name you might know if you've done any research. into the Theosophical Society. And here's Georgia O'Keeffe, the great American painter, her Rose Cross. And here's a Rosicrucian Rose Cross. It's quite different. The Rosicrucian Rose Cross is filled with occult symbols. And that's why Steiner says, let's take the simplest version of the Rose Cross. Here's a very complex version. And when I looked at it, I recalled the Aleister Crowley Tarot deck. I hadn't realized that the image on that is the Hermetic Rose Cross. So let's see what it's relating to. Let's get to work with it. The relation to the chakras. Another lotus flower with 12 petals is situated in the region of the heart. They express the sacred quality of the number 12, which we have in the 12 apostles, the 12 knights of King Arthur, and then again in all creation, in all action. The 12-petaled flower is expressed in the symbol of the rose cross and the 12 companions. Relation to Ahriman and Lucifer. With such feelings in our hearts, we forever want to imbue ourselves with the meaning of the rose cross, so that we can perceive it in the proper way as the motto for our doing, weaving, and feeling. Not the black cross alone. He who tears the roses from the black cross and has nothing left but the black cross would fall into the clutches of Ahriman. The black cross in itself represents life when it strives to embrace inanimate matter. Also, if one were to separate the cross from the roses, keeping only the latter, one would not find the proper thing. For the roses, separate from the cross, tend to elevate us to a life of selfish striving toward the spiritual, but not to a life in which we reveal the spirit in a material world, not the cross alone, not the roses alone, but the roses on the cross carrying the roses. That is our proper symbol. Christ in relation to Lucifer and Ahriman, Linz, 1915. Now I have a problem with my right screen there again. And my cursor doesn't want to go to the top to erase it. Why is man in sleep unaware of sensory impressions, although he is surrounded by a material world? Grant, can you unmute for a moment?
Hi.
Hi, I need your technical help. How do I get my little screen off because I can't read it? Or if you can see it without the screen down the side, can you read this for me, please?
Happy to. I can see, I think all of us except you can see your full screen, so I will be happy to read it.
If you would please read the ones where the text is wide.
Why is man in sleep unaware of sensory impressions, although he is surrounded by a material world? It is because during the night, his intellect is not working. The physical and etheric bodies of a man asleep remain in bed. His astral body and ego emerge and are in the spiritual world. But why is it that he perceives nothing of the spiritual world that is all around him, and into which his astral body and ego enter during the night? It is because the astral body of the average human being who leaves the physical body during sleep at night has no astral sense organs. Hence, it is impossible for him to perceive anything in the astral world. Through spiritual training, the chaotic astral mass, which the astral body of the average individual reveals itself to be, is organized in such a way that it gradually begins to develop organs and can then have perceptions during the night. In normal life, man is not yet able to form organs in his astral body. To be capable of this, the power in his inner life must be strengthened. Mental pictures that represent objects in the outer world are not suitable. But visualize a figure such as the rose cross, the black cross with the 7 red roses. And if you practice the exercise with the necessary vigor and patience, you will experience something through it according to your degree of development. You will transform your astral body thereby, generating organs in it. This mental picture should not be an abstraction. The right feelings and perceptive experiences must be involved. Only then will the desired results be achieved. From a lecture on the 12th of June, 1909.
Okay, I wanted to pause here a moment and say the Rose Cross is really the heart of the Anthroposophical meditations, because Steiner said Anthroposophy is founded under the sign of the Rose Cross. It's not an easy meditation, but what we've just heard is that regardless of your level of training and development, you will get something from it. And I think that continues all the way through. I certainly can say that it just has always more and more to give. Are there any questions at this point? But next we're going to lay on the meditation itself.
Do we need to associate each rose with a chakra?
That's a very, very good question. The roses do indeed relate to the 7 chakras and to a lot more besides, but yes, the roses relate to the 7 chakras, and the fact that they circle around the center, and Steiner spoke of the heart chakra and the rose cross. I remember coming across something. I'm not always good at chapter and verse, but that when the chakras are fully developed, they have them all really enter the quality of the heart chakra. So that is probably also in this symbol, that the 7 chakras are rotating around a common center.
What is that center that they're rotating around? Is that the human eye?
Well, we've got a cross. So we've got a vertical line and a horizontal line. So we have the vertical line of our spiritual presence and identity that goes through all incarnations and connects us to the spiritual world. And then we have the horizontal line of the cross that's us carrying out our life in time and space. So the meeting of time and space with our spiritual entity is definitely the center. He's saying you can't tear the roses off the cross. You can't just do the soulful part. You have to be present in the physical world, and go through the hardships of that. So the center is the meeting point, and there are many, many, many other ways of looking at it. That's just sort of one that came to mind quickly. If anyone else wants to step in and give another elucidation of the center point that the roses are around.
So Lois, I know that you will be doing a bit of a slide on correspondences as well later on, so perhaps that will partially answer the question about the individual 7 roses.
Okay, good. Yes, we will be covering a lot. Shall we see what it looks like? I mean, that's what it looks like. Let's see the description of how we get there. Grant, I'm going to have to ask you to read this.
Certainly. Building up the meditation. We start by forming the conception of a man as he presents himself to us in the present time, a being of whom, in a certain sense, he himself can by no means approve, with whom he cannot be satisfied, and of whom he must say that, such as he is now, he must be conquered. Then, by the side of this conception, we place the other, that he feels he must strive to realize his own higher nature, a nature that would give him complete mastery over all that in his present form he disapproves of. That this second conception cannot be classified as perception is shown by the fact that it does not refer to the present or the past, but to man's future. Then from such stirrings, we combine conceptions that ordinarily, under the guidance of the world of perceptions, would not coincide. We bring together the black cross, the symbol of what must be caused to die, and the red roses, symbol of the life that must arise from it. In inner meditation, we visualize the rose cross, a visualization that can only be called unreal, yet did not come into being like an external error, but was born of the noblest impulses of our soul. We have then brought forth out of the noblest impulses of our soul a visualization corresponding to no outer perception. And if we apply this visualization, that is, if we give ourselves up to it in a conscientious inner devotion and let it work upon us, we find that our soul expands in a healthy way and attains to heights not reached before. Thus, experience shows the soul to be capable of development. By means of a visualization that is outwardly an error, we have performed something that manifests itself as intrinsically right. From a lecture 15th of December, 1911.
Okay, so if we're all clear, what we're visualizing is a black cross, and around the center of the cross are 7 roses. And I think it's important to look and see that it's really a 7-pointed star. That is, there's a head at the top and 2 feet at the bottom, hands and wings is how we talk about it in eurythmy. So, and I think you can see in the echo of the cross that Steiner wore, the 3 roses are basically above the Balkan and the 4 roses are below. And that was important to him. So also the roses really are to be, I've got some here, there really are to be full, beautiful roses and the cross as something distinctly strong and black. So if you could, we're going to take 5 minutes for everyone to picture for themselves a black cross and around the center of it, 7 roses. If you want to start now, Grant, I'll watch the time.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Does the cross need to be something organic like wood, or does it matter?
Yes, it is a wood cross. Basically, that's something that as we go along, we're going to add in more texture. But yes, it's a wood cross. It is the cross, if that answers that question. I sent out some material today and the other day to read where there was a wonderful legend of the tree of life and the tree of knowledge and Seth and the bush that came of the 3 seeds from the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. So there's something in this It's definitely wood, and it relates to that very strong legendary wood that is capable of growing more life. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, let's take a crack at it and see how we do. For 5 minutes, just quietly place before you a cross with a ring of roses. I'll just say a few words now if someone's having difficulty with this. To create the black cross, you have to use a push of will as if you're pushing a hard box across the floor or a tabletop. The cross is a different energy than the roses. The roses are more soulful, light, musical, and the cross is very much a gotta push it out. See if that helps.
So rather than have a conversation, I would like to open all the rooms and let you speak a little more personally with a small group. There will be 3 or possibly 4 people in a room. We'll give you 10 minutes. That's not a lot of time, but 10 minutes to chat, and I will notify you as the rooms are about to close.
Let's go deeper. Grant, if you could read the screen, I chose to talk about now that we've had a little feeling for what it's about. Let's go deeper.
Certainly. Man is able to obtain knowledge by means of inspiration and intuition only through soul-spirit exercises. While, however, those exercises that lead to imagination are linked to the impressions of the sensory physical world, the black cross, the black color of the cross, the roses, and so forth, if now the student of the spirit attempts to let the black cross and also the red roses as pictures of sense realities disappear entirely from his consciousness, and only to retain in his soul the spiritual activity that has combined these parts. Then he has a means for meditation that leads him by degrees to inspiration. One may place the following question before one's soul. What have I done inwardly in order to combine cross and rose into a symbol? What have I done in my own soul process I wish to hold fast? I let the picture itself, however, disappear from my consciousness. Then I wish to feel within me all that my soul has done in order to bring the image into existence. But I do not wish to hold the image itself. I wish to live quite inwardly within my own activity, which has created the image, to dwell in my own image creating soul activity. This then leads to cognition through inspiration.
Steiner spoke of the Rose Cross as a safe doorway into the spiritual world. And I think this is speaking to that. Now, this is an advanced exercise to picture it and then erase the picture and just feel what it took inside you to get it there. But I find at any stage, if you just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, you can get a big surprise. You know, these are things you probably can do and don't know you can do. we all have these latent forces within us, and sometimes all it takes is for you to tell your imagination, okay, we're going to do this. And what I found with this exercise, it gave me more insight into how to create the rose and the cross. And I spoke that a little bit at the end. The cross requires something different from the roses. And another thing, just to share what he's trying to explain, is actually very simple. I've tried placing the rose cross in many different places. I've had it out in front of me as an image. I've been in the middle of the cross, feeling the width across my shoulders and my vertical, and feeling around my heart the roses. But I found really helpful one day, when just wacky experimentation, the cross went through me to the back. When I was feeling the cross has to take out of me all of my imperfections, all of my ways of not being worthy, it felt like, you know, those old letter boxes on a desk back when people had paper, and there'd be a paperweight go down on the top of the letter box and push all those letters back down. Well, the paperweight was the weight, was the rose cross, and it pushed to the back, left back behind my spine the density, and then the roses sprang up in front of me. So this, however you're talking to yourself as you do it, just experiment wildly. And every time you do, it will tell you something else. So I'm giving this now to everyone, because I think you can be really surprised at what happens if you just go, okay, picture this, and then suddenly the room breaks apart and something from the spiritual world can come to meet you. So Steiner's instructions, that's why we're using his words, because they are, they have a power to them. So I invite you to, when you're working with this, go ahead and try and not see it and take it away. And I think you'll find a way to see it better later on. This came up with the turning of the roses. And now this is the roses. We talked about them in relation to the 7 chakras. Here are the roses in relation to the 7 planetary spheres, the 7 planetary intelligences. Grant, if you would read this, I've got a few words off to the side.
Sure. The roses and the planets. We should remember these 7 spheres when we look at the 7 roses of our rose cross. They are a symbol for them. The sphere's effects are divided into 2 parts by the Christ circle, into a lower one with 4 circles, whose forces work from below, and an upper spiritual one with 3 circles that work indirectly. The saying, "I'm reborn in the Holy Spirit," applies in the spiritual upper part. Ex Deo Nascimur holds for the lower part, and Christ makes the connection between the two, in Christi Morimur.
Okay, so now Steiner is making a connection with 2 things here. One, the Ex Deo Nascimur, and on the other with the planets. And this helped me immensely. If you feel that the 4 roses on the bottom are coming from within, so, and it's like your internal organs or whatever, the intelligence is working within our bodies, those roses can come out of the fullness of your being in the body. And then the 3 above are much more ethereal, much more, it's like the chakras in the higher chakras and the lower chakras. However you want to put that together with yourself, All of these things apply. So these are just layers to give to your psyche, to your spirit being, to help you work with this. So that's, Regina, what gave me the thought that above the 3 roses being above the Balkan is, here we have Saturn, Jupiter, Mars.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
below we have Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun. So we've got that division up and down. And I find it's hard to generate all 7 roses at once. That if you're having that difficulty getting all 7 to be clear and nice in place, if you feel the lower ones coming more pushing out of your, or more coming out of your body, and the upper ones as more the reborn of the Holy Spirit and born of the Father. So this is what has been accomplished, and this is what we're working towards. It helps immensely to get everything to stay still. They like to move around, it's true. Okay, next screen. Lucifer, the roses, and the planets. People often say the rose cross remains a mere symbol for me, but that's their own fault. These are Steiner's words. The feelings with which a man should permeate himself so that the red rose cross becomes a live force and not just a symbol. That would speak to Margaret and to Annie. We not just a symbol, we already indicated in occult science. We can also convert what was said today into a feeling. We're born from God, but since Lucifer mixed himself into creation, the cross's wood must become burnt, charcoal, and black. In Christi Moramur, if we've died in Christ like this, then the world forces, the forces of the 7 red heavenly roses that radiate into us as light and warmth can approach us from outside, from the 7 planets. I found this charred black cross meant more to me after what we've started to go through with this situation we have in the world now, with this external control over our lives. I felt that more, that it was easier to charcoal black the cross. Also, I find picturing a very grainy wood, like ash. You know, ash wood has a very big pronounced grain. It helps in the visualization rather than, say, cherry wood. If you, or think of oak, a really strong grained wood, and then char it black. There's something very gratifying in that. And then the roses are the life that springs out of that. And here, this 7 red heavenly roses is a beautiful picture that these are then given to us by the planetary spheres when we get, when we scorch Lucifer and Ahriman in our being. This is a symbol that pulls together the cross with the red roses. And again, they are placed here, 3 above, 4 below. And that's set within the 5-pointed star. And Steiner speaks about the roses and the chaos in the astral body, and the rose cross building the organs into the astral body so that when we leave our physical and etheric body and sleep, we can interact with the spiritual world and not lose consciousness. The 5-pointed star is a representation of the forces of the astral body, the astral streams through the physical body in a 5, in the direction of the 5-pointed star, left foot up, head down, to right foot over to the left, across to the right, and out. So there it's the rose cross sitting in the symbol for the astral body, which I found really, really interesting here. A circle around it, and the ex deo nascimur in Christi morimur per spiritum sanctum revivissimus around the outside. As in his pendant, it was lettered on the back, but this is another way of showing the rose cross in its dynamics and workings. In closing, the principle which can be born in every human soul as the higher ego points to the rebirth of the divine ego in the evolution of mankind in its entirety. Through the event of Palestine, just as the higher ego is born in the individual, so the higher ego of all mankind, the divine ego, was born in Palestine, and it is preserved and developed in what lives concealed in the sign of the rose cross.